Review exercise 11-1, tense vowels. Ask, out, ought, I'm, ape, eel, oops, own, bake, about, boss, bike, bathe, bean, boost, both, camp, cow, cough, kind, case, keep, coop, code. Review exercise 11-3, lax vowels. Wed, which, would, what, work. Bet, bit, book, but, burn. Kept, kiss, could, cut, curt. Review exercise 11-7, compound nouns and complex verbs. 1. The wily old lighthouse keepers invent a highly lucrative money laundering scheme once a season. 2. The wily old lighthouse keepers invented a highly lucrative money laundering scheme last year. 3. The wily old lighthouse keepers are inventing a highly lucrative money laundering scheme again. 4. The wily old lighthouse keepers will invent a highly lucrative money laundering scheme if they aren't afraid of being caught and sent to prison. 5. The wily old lighthouse keepers would invent a highly lucrative money laundering scheme if they weren't afraid of being caught and sent to prison. 6. The wily old lighthouse keepers would have invented a highly lucrative money laundering scheme if they hadn't been afraid of being caught and sent to prison. 7. The wily old lighthouse keepers that have invented a highly lucrative money laundering scheme are languishing in Club Fed at the moment. 8. The wily old lighthouse keepers have invented a highly lucrative money laundering scheme for the 10th year in a row. 9. The wily old lighthouse keepers had invented a highly lucrative money laundering scheme long before multi-level marketing became popular. 10. The wily old lighthouse keepers will have invented a highly lucrative money laundering scheme by the time they get back from checking their offshore bank accounts. 11. The wily old lighthouse keepers ought to invent a highly lucrative money laundering scheme to handle the overflow cash from their many nefarious enterprises. 12. The wily old lighthouse keepers should invent a highly lucrative money laundering scheme to stash their ill-gotten gains. 13. The wily old lighthouse keepers shouldn't invent a highly lucrative money laundering scheme in this anti-crime climate. 14. The wily old lighthouse keepers should have invented a highly lucrative money laundering scheme while they were in the witness protection plan. 15. The wily old lighthouse keepers shouldn't have invented a highly lucrative money laundering scheme while they were being monitored by the FBI. 16. The wily old lighthouse keepers could invent a highly lucrative money laundering scheme once a year for 100 years and never run out of ideas. 17. The wily old lighthouse keepers couldn't invent a highly lucrative money laundering scheme even if their lives depended on it. 18. The wily old lighthouse keepers could have invented a highly lucrative money laundering scheme if they'd had a laptop and a bank account. 19. Even those wily old lighthouse keepers couldn't have invented such a highly lucrative money laundering scheme without outside help. 20. The wily old lighthouse keepers might invent a highly lucrative money laundering scheme unless they're kept under house arrest. 21. The wily old lighthouse keepers might have invented a highly lucrative money laundering scheme while they were waiting for trial. 22. The wily old lighthouse keepers must invent a lot of highly lucrative money laundering schemes. 23. The wily old lighthouse keepers must have invented a highly lucrative money laundering scheme while they were out on parole. 24. The wily old lighthouse keepers can invent hundreds of highly lucrative money laundering schemes. 25. The wily old lighthouse keepers can't invent any more highly lucrative money laundering schemes. Review exercise 11.8. Your own compound nouns. On a separate piece of paper, build up your own compound nouns, both subject and object, as on page 140. Review exercise 11.9. Your compound nouns and complex verbs. On a separate piece of paper, write out your own sentences as on page 141. Review exercise 12.1. Nasal consonants. More, bore. Summing, subbing. Jam, jab. 9, dine. Anna, adder. Pawn, pod. Bring each. Geese. Singer. Cigar. Ring. Rig. Review exercise 12.2. Ending nasal consonants. Rum, run, rung. Some, sun, sung. Hum, hun, hung. Review exercise 12.3. Reading nasal consonant sounds. Some young men wanted to fling a ring along the rim of the fountain, but we told them to clam up and clean up their game. One was a well-mannered young man with the name Dan Wang. He said, "Yes, ma'am." Review exercise 13.1. Throaty consonants. How, rehire. Cow, accent, sink. Go, regard, drag. Bring in, thanks, sing. Row, mirror, car. Review exercise 13.2. The letter X. Excite, extra. Accept, excellent. Example, exactly. Examine, exit. Review exercise 13.3. Reading the H, K, G, N, G, and R sounds. Dr. Baxter's exact experience was such that when the good doctor traveled to the Sahara, he inhaled the arid air, picked up his still-packed bags, and headed for the bar. It was time to examine the sorry situation, which was exactly the case with Dr. Igor Baxter, an English historian with a peg leg and an unquenchable thirst for Mexican rum. Baxter had had a pair of strange experiences in the area, but he was still game to accomplish his goal in the exiled purgatory of the great dry Sahara. When he saw that his patients were to be camels, however, he packed up and took off for green England without a single pang of regret.